Hello and welcome to the 54th episode. Is it really the 54th episode of Rambling Weekly? It is the 54th episode of Rambling Weekly. Holy crap. Yay. Anyways, welcome to the 54th episode of Rambling Weekly. I can tell by the title, The Chains That Bind Us. I'm going to kind of go into social things and my social philosophy. I don't know. We'll go into it. First, we're going to take a break, do our normal thing, and then eventually we'll get into the topic. Anyways, stick around. Welcome back. That there was Still Time from the East Healing album. Very just comfy, soothing. Go a little different route this time. Just taking it easy. Sometimes you just got to do that. Even though I'm like, truth be told, ball of energy. Don't know what's gotten over me. I don't know if I've had some sort of premonition of my death shortly looming ahead. But my body is like, hey, get to gear. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully everything is going as well as it seemingly is going for me as it is for you. My alarm goes off. Thank you, alarm. Thank you, phone. You really... Thank you. Can't get through these. Whatever. Anyways. Oh yeah, hope everybody's doing well. What's been going on? Well, lots been going on. For one, I've sort of dabbling back into streaming. I think it's probably something that I'll try to do maybe once or twice a week. I would like to keep that as a regular thing, and I know I start to do it and then I fall off, start to do it and fall off, start to do it and fall off. I think part of it is because I would do it on Twitch. And it's like, just do it on whatever. Like, just stick to YouTube. Just stick it with YouTube and just go from there. Stop trying to bounce it with like 8 different sites and all this sort of stuff. So I'm going to stick with streaming on YouTube because why not? Because I'm here. I mean, I changed the name. This is where I'm planting my flag for this sort of thing. So done that. Played through Morris's side of Bloodlines, Castlevania Bloodlines, the Sega Genesis Castlevania game, and outside of struggling a little bit, we got through it. What else? Playing through Resident Evil now, so we just played through about a couple hours of it. The Chris route, I rolled a die and it was like, we're going with Chris, so yeah, so going to stream again on Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're around, come join the fun. What else? I've been editing. I've gotten a couple chapters into editing. I haven't typed out the edits. I've just gone through and written them out. So there's that. Let's see. I've got a thing here. I've got my goal list and stuff that I've been going through. I'm currently on chapter 15 of Redwall, so pushing a little bit closer to a quarter of the way through the book. I've now that I'm starting to get a lot more things on my plate, not in a bad way, but in just it keeps me busy. I'm kind of like a diesel engine in that way. It's like once I start rolling, I'm good to go. Good to go for until the engine breaks. Part of that's also being able to understand, hey, I need to regiment these things out. Like, because if I don't do that, I know I get really, really lackadaisical. I get really, really lazy. I'll just devolve into having some sort of YouTube thing on, which isn't to say that's bad per se, especially if you're watching somebody you're like, hey, I really enjoy these videos and that sort of thing. Problem is, I'll do that and then it'll just kind of you gotta like detach yourself. Like at least for myself, I've got to be like, no, stop, no more. And that's things you learn about yourself. So like I just gotta put the foot down. Either be like, okay, I'm only gonna watch a couple videos or whatnot or something. And just have it in your head to be like, no, we're done, done. Let's see. I'm still getting through Unmetal. I am probably 7/8 of the way through that game. I'm getting close. I think I'm on chapter 7. It's the last chapter was really, really short, so I'm kind of wondering if that isn't a prelude to these other chapters being a bit on the shorter end. So hopefully I'll have a video out in the next week or so. I really need to just power through it. Yeah, so that so I've been dabbling a little bit in that, doing the streams and stuff. Played a little bit of GoldenEye. I've been like, it was kind of rough to be like, oh shoot, I only use one joystick. How do I get through this? Oh yes, that's right. You got to adapt and overcome, or whatever whatever the there's a third word in there that I don't, and not and there's another one. I think it's adapt, improvise, and overcome or something. I don't improvise, adapt, overcome. At least get to the overcome part. So I've just kind of been playing a little bit like, oh, here, like a mission here, and it's kind of interesting to play it again and going, oh yeah, you can just, yeah, of course, like the scientists and stuff, but it's like, yeah, you can just wipe these people out because they disappear, so you don't have to worry about lugging a body around or anything like that. And it's kind of simplistic in that way, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, I vaguely remember this. It's, I guess you remember it or you know of it, but then when you actually play it, it's like, oh yeah, this really changes how the gameplay is. So that I don't really have too much of an update on it, but I know I'll keep on like drip feeding it, but there's still some stuff going on. It's going to be a little bit before eventually gets released, but I think I might have mentioned in the previous Rambling Weekly about this other project I've got starting to be brought to a boil, and so we can get it to simmer and start cooking. So that's still spinning. I think next week we'll start to really see some progress in a certain way. So that'll be fun. So I'll keep people's aware of that. What else has really been going on? Not too much. I've been getting back into exercising. That's been really nice. I've since I was sick over Thanksgiving, and I dropped a bunch of weight, and I actually kept it off, which was really nice. But I've also just been consistently exercising. Part of that's been just a laziness on me, but another part of it is like I know how my I know how my weight can fluctuate if I don't if I don't keep on myself in a certain way. I can, like, when I got really sick, I ballooned, and I am now 80% of what I was from when I ballooned. So you can see it in the Christmas video, as well as the like goals for 2022, or what was it? There was another one, gaps and details. I did that short video. It's like detailing storytelling, like the difference between having gaps in your story and being like hyper detailed. I fall into more of the gaps line just because it allows readers and the audience to hook into certain spots to be able to expand it in their own way. Details, yeah, you can certainly do that as well, but it takes a very different mindset, and it's just not my mindset. Like, it's important to have details, but At a certain point, I'm just like, I'm good. I don't need to know what the frog in the river was doing 20 miles away from everything else that's going on in the story. So, you can see like if you look at that and look at me, you're like, yeah, he's kind of got little shimmer. Yeah. So, what was that about? uh, but yeah, that, and I cannot, I cannot get enough of this. Not at the Roxberries. The snozberries taste like snozberries. I've actually never seen that movie. I just know like lines from it in the SNL skit and everything. It'd probably be one of those things I watch today, and I'm like, sure, whatever. But I no, I appreciate. I love that little gif, whatever. Yeah. So, I think that's about it. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's about it. So we're gonna take a break and then come back and talk about the topic at hand. So let's get to it. Welcome back. That there is Palace, and just that start has this nice foreboding, and I think the piano really, really helps. There's always I may not be really, really smart when it comes to musical things. I mean, you could have just cut it at I may not be really smart, but adding a little caveat of like piano or just in general with music. I feel like sometimes it gets overused with people who really appreciate it, but another thing that I don't feel like gets enough attention, kind of similarly like when I was streaming Resident Evil last night, I just the sounds and lighting. Same thing with music, even if it's just instrumentation, like instrumentals and stuff, is that not instrumentation, but instrumentals is silence. There's something to silence, and even if it isn't like complete silence, just a note that sort of wavers off, that it builds a great bit of tension that I think is really hard to be able to replicate in a lot of things, especially like you get into like trap, what is that, like trap music stuff. There's that very tinny sort of percussion, and it always sort of reflects a lot of what I feel like just this inundation of information and just trying to go, or just pop 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 pop. I don't know. There's something about having that, just even if it's just a brief little moment of silence, or just this. It's almost like the top of a roller coaster right before you go down a hill, or like down it and stuff. You get that, and you have that just, and then just sort of thing on a very minor scale. And we're not just simply talking the minor scale. Ha 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 ha. Anyways, yeah, just something about that I really like, and the song starts kind of with that a little bit, that sort of apprehension, that sort of spookiness. Yeah, I like it. Anyways, the topic, the chains that bind us. This one, I mean, much more in the sense of socially, our contacts, our connections with friends, more specifically than I would say family, or your neighbors. Though those are certainly chains that tug at us, or unless you've completely broken those. The neighbor one might be a little bit more of an odd one. It seems like a lot of people don't really pay much attention to their neighbors. Could be wrong. But it's maybe just like a passing, oh, hey, how's it going kind of thing, and nothing more. More to my point, like, and this works with coworkers as well, but in sense of like friendships or relationships, so me personally, obviously, because I'm talking about me, but in my head, I think it is very important that you surround yourself with 3 different types of people. Now, I don't necessarily mean personality wise. I mean things that you can point to for different things. One are people like yourself. And what I mean by that is like maybe similar aspirations, similar sorts of goals, interests, things you like, and that sort of stuff. And those, you have kind of your crowd, your group that you work with, or you play with. Then with the other 2 groups, one being the group that, as harshly as this is going to come off, a group that you, or like people that you know that you are better than, and not necessarily in an egotistical, oh, I'm better than you, but more of like maybe that you are more fortunate than, or maybe your finances are situated better, so, but you're still interacting with people who maybe they don't have, you give them $10, they spend $100, kind of thing. But those sorts of people, maybe they have anger issues, but you're a very calm person, and that sort of thing. Just different in that regard. But then also that third final group are people who are better than you, whether that's because they are like clear on their goals and they've accomplished goals and they've got more goals. They've just people who, for lack of a way, they have it together. Your group, they don't have it together. You have those are the 3 groups. And I say that because, one, if you are always intermingling with your level, we'll say, that might be an easier way to put it. Say to you personally, you're level 50. Your friends and everything that you interact with are level 50. Hey, you gotta interact with, I wouldn't say level 1s because that's a really hard thing. But say like level 30s, level 20s, or people who are in their level 70s, level 80s, kind of thing. And so like if you're always intermingling, if me personally, I keep on saying that, stop saying that, Tressler, come on. I guess in my mindset on those sorts of things, it's like you only know what you're aware of, and you might not even really be aware of a lot. And even if you are aware of it, doesn't mean you necessarily know it. So if you are always intermingling with the same people who, think of it, it can be a small town, it can be a small, I don't want to say not prefecture, precinct, like a section of a city. If you hang out with people who don't have any sort of goals and aspirations for getting out of that, it can taint, I don't want to say taint, it can sort of change and morph the way that your mentality is on it. Either it'd be like, wow, never going to get out of here, or yeah, I don't really have any interest in leaving here. I'm comfortable being here. That's not to say that that's a bad thing per se, but I guess for me, I'm moved around a whole bunch. I like the not necessarily bouncing around, because you always got to start anew, and so that can be kind of frustrating. But in the same hand, the friends that you do make, they galvanize into really fantastic friends and great people, at least from my experience. And thanks to things like the internet, it's a lot easier to keep in contact with those folks. So, but who you are interacting with, if there's never really any pushback to um, kind of go even further beyond. Yeah, you'll always be stuck at Super Saiyan level 2. You'll never get to Super Saiyan level 3, which is a pain to draw, and so why it doesn't really get shown very often. We saw that in the Dragon Ball Super. You don't draw it very well. It looks pretty awful. But um, uh, so in that, you know, you have your own setting. The people who are better than you or have their stuff in better order, or just because I don't want to like necessarily, because it's not necessarily in a material sense, right? Like I don't mean somebody who's just financially well. Like that doesn't, it doesn't necessarily translate into, oh well, they've got their stuff together, or oh, they're doing really, like they've got these goals, they're driven, they what have you. Not only that, they may never be able to provide you any sort of method or understanding to kind of step onto that level. Who knows? It could be just a facade. They could be dancing around in level 80 gear, but they're really just a level 40 character. And you're like, what are you doing? How did you do this? Sounds like you cheated. What's going on here? I call hacks. Hacks. So, but you know, that's just the sort of thing to learn from. I like that's for me. I really like having friends who are better than me in a lot of different things. Um, uh, like I can be like I mentioned this to Slade. Slade and I played synthetic together the other day. It's now about a week ago, but the days fly by. Anyway, we played together, and I was like, yeah, I can be kind of prickly. It's just because I'm stern. I'm stern on myself. So like, for me, I always appreciate and like having friends who, a will either call me out on something, or b will try to provide me some sort of advice. Like I like advice. It's not necessarily that I'll take the advice, nor should anybody just take advice that it's given. But it should be something to be like, oh, okay, this is what they're saying. All right, let me reflect and think about this. Maybe it is the better way to go. Like this is something to be cognizant of. And I wish people would be a little bit more receptive to it, but that's also because I like giving advice. So it's like, why not? In the same hand, there's plenty of times I just get told, "Shut up, leave me alone. I don't want to hear it." And it's like, okay, like, you can only do so much, right? You can give the advice, and it isn't necessary. Like, and I get it. Like, there's times in which somebody gives advice, if somebody's not very trusting, they can be like, "Why are you giving me this advice? So you're giving me this advice to try to, like, get one up on me, to lord it over me, what have you." Like, I get it. It can get very difficult, especially if there are people who are not trusting. I used to be this way. I used to be very untrusting of people. And to a certain degree, I can slip into that mindset. I can get very just iron-hearted, and I'll just be like, no, nothing. It's all me. I've got to do it. It's not a healthy mindset to have. But then, your brain will try to trick you to be like, well, here are points in which that tended to be the case, Taylor. Looks like I'm right. And it's like, no. So for myself, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, like, of course, in a lot of ways, I do see them as being my equal, but in them, I also see a lot of things that they are just a whole lot better, a whole lot more responsible, a whole lot more just, like, better than me at things that I take and learn from, to be like, okay, I could probably start taking notes. Yeah. On that sort of thing. Like, David's a good example of it. Arbel, who I tease, we will eventually, soon enough. And I think it's we're working on it. He's been busy, and I've been bad about trying to brought him along into it. But the Arbo will be on. Those are two prime examples of people who, um, yeah. And in the same hand, not to say that like a relationship should be a transactional one, but I think it's healthy that there are things that can go between, and then you don't have to like there are people you can just go have a drink with or something that you just kind of shoot the breeze. Those are fine. Like I'm not as big on that myself because I'm a bit more like of a I'm a bit more of a loner. I mean, Arbel's described as, and not in like oh he's a lone wolf. He plays by his own. I mean I do play by my own rules, but not not in the Dirty Harry sort of way. But um, where was I going with all this? But like in the same turn, they I would hope they see things in me that they'll be like I really appreciate this attribute, and I wish to strive more like it. Mine's the dual edged sword of stubbornness and being driven. Eh, sometimes it's the same mask, and you're just like yeah great okay. But yeah, I think I mentioned it a couple episodes ago about getting in contact with buddies from high school, and one who he doesn't have social media and stuff that I caught up with and stuff. He was very happy, and I think I probably mentioned in that episode as well. But he was very happy that he heard that I was still writing, like, and so just kind of things like that. But in the same turn, people who associating with people and having connections with people that are maybe not on your level in a lower sense, people who are very in disorder, don't have don't know what they're doing with life and whatnot. And this is hard, I feel like, in the US with how the culture is. Part of it's the hyper, it's tugging in two different directions. The one that tugs that is hard to really like, it's a very weird dynamic we've got on, where we have this idea of hyper individualism versus how to put it, fanatical communities, for lack of a better way to put it. Like just in a communal sense, they're very communities are very galvanized, especially like I think I've mentioned this somewhere in one of the Rambling Weeklies, how decentralized everything has become because of the internet. There's less of an ability to, how to put it, like you can be very rock sure and rock solid in some sort of core beliefs, but if you're like, because you're able to listen to the things you want to hear, or already have it in your mindset that because this person identifies as what have you, I'm not gonna like whatever, I don't care. I'll name two on the odd ends of the spectrum there. Somebody like Ben Shapiro and somebody like Keith Olbermann. You hear something from either one, and if you slide one way or the other, you might be just like, no. I take the Bill Hicks approach. Piece of shit. Piece of shit. And walk away. Like, just, I am, yeah. But those communities start really, really galvanizing, and we don't develop a habit of, and this is what it, really, they only open the doors for the outsider if they want to be if they are lockstep with what they want. If you are not a part of it, then they'll eat you alive. And that's what I mean by that. That kind of fanatical community. It's like how it's so odd to me that people want to be very, very open about things, or wanting to be like, oh, come on, one, come all kind of thing. But then if they are an outsider of against some sort of belief, or some sort of opinion, some sort of attitude, it is very quick to switch on a dime. Very, for lack of a better way to put it, very schizophrenic, bipolar, of just this inability to take it in small steps. It's already, we're already redlining, and now we're just gonna just break the engine kind of thing. And part of that, I think, also boils down to how we sort of entertain ourselves, in that, like, you see it in memes and everything, about how the reaction is the thing that gets memes, when it's like the initial thing could have just been said in jest, it could have been completely tongue-in-cheek, but it is taken as, oh, well, this person's serious, so this person's going to cut him at the knee. And it's just a very unhealthy mindset. So you have that sort of group dynamic of, if you are not a part of this group, we'll cut you down. And or the ones that will kind of infiltrate said group and then try to break it from the inside. Think Joker from Full Metal Jacket sort of thing. And then you also have, on the other end, the hyper individualistic attitude of, this is my life, I know what I'm doing, even I don't know what I'm doing. You've not lived my life, you don't have any way of being able to provide me better information than I know myself. And I think that that's just also an incredibly unhealthy way to go, because it's not necessary, because that hyper individualistic attitude doesn't mean that they are solely walking down that line by themselves, and not the no man is an island unto himself kind of idea and whatnot. It's more that because you don't fully know, you can't give some sort of advice. And it's like, that makes some very strong sense in a medical sense. Like, if you don't know the full details of somebody, you might not want to make that operation on the stomach, or what have you. You might not want to make a operation on the brain. But it's life. Everybody lives life. At least you hope, right? You live life how you live life. I guess you could say everybody experiences life. I don't know if everybody lives it. But so yeah, it's what ends up happening. It makes sense in a rebellious state, as children and teenagers, because you're adapting and learning in life, and this is a whole new thing, whole new world. Anyways, as you get older, unfortunately, for some reason, we don't unattach that cart and just let it kind of roll back into the past where it belongs. So it ends up being, it stays along for the rest of the ride, or at least a very sizable length of the ride. And that, I think, is probably the really, like, the worst part when it comes to the individualistic attitude, is this, yes, I got it, I know what I'm doing, you don't know my life, I don't need it. I say all that, and maybe I have the wrong of it. Like, that could be completely off, but this is where, in being like, and it can be in just the sense of a coworker, it can just be, I always try to, I guess, frame it not in a way of, because this is kind of ties into that communal, like, fanaticism as well, is that there is always this, and it could spin back all the way to puritanical upbringings of people coming across the ocean, yeah, of this, and this is where, the outsider, when it comes to a community has what it, it has its its walls. It's what it is. But then the outsider, and this is why I like. There's an Alan Watts video that talks about like it's always good to have the outsider because they can point out the things wrong with the society. It's not necessarily to say break all of it down, but it's good to keep in check. It's always good to laugh at yourself. Yeah. Oh yeah. Make the people who take themselves too seriously, make them mad because they're I think a little off kilter. Oh, swell. That's a good way to not have my phone ring anymore. just drop it. Just knock it off things. But yeah, with the community and the outsider, is that like how do they treat that outsider? How does that like you know the to be adopted into it? There's a lot of like, I mean, you see, think of how people, not always, but how people would be like, I, you know, I'm a fan of this, and then you get bombarded by like super detailed questions on stuff, and it's like, look, I'm a fan. I don't live and breathe this stuff, so maybe, yeah. So they make these like degradations. It's like, well, you're not a true fan. You're a what do they call that? Like a, not a passing fan, but just a, I don't remember. You're a fan light, or you know, when you don't like root for your team through the bad times. Oh, well, you're a fair weather fan or something like that. Then yeah, they start making these like classes of it. It's like, well, you know, if you're a true fan, thick and thin, and blah 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 blah, and it's just kind of what we do as social creatures, right? And I that tyrannical sense of, well, to be a part of this, you have to adopt our mindset is a really odd thing when you think about people who are, you know, we are supposed to be in a society that's very, very open, but then it's like, well, you know, there's this just push and pull of people always at each other's throats because they don't quite align into one box or the other, like into the box that they want, or they're in the other box, and it's just like the knives come out. The Those sorts of settings make it really, I think, hard to be able to establish those kind of bonds because or there's chains, because you need to be able to connect to that other person to some degree. And if you're not doing that, it's just kind of flailing around, right? The chains are there, but nobody else is connecting. So, you know, that's my like philosophy on like how that should, like how you should go, because one, you know, yeah, you'll have whatever you foster with your group, but you can only go so far because your group only knows so much. You're only at so much of a level. So when you get the outsider or the person who's like hyper leveled versus, you're able to kind of reflect back and think, oh, you know, you don't necessarily have to grow that same way, but you can pull ideas and concepts and stuff to, you know, grow however way you want to. Similarly, in having that, you're then able to reflect that back and try to figure out ways to help other people. So in sense, trying to become, you know, not just singularly, but trying to become the tide that raises all ships. And like, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it blows up in your face. Sometimes, you know, you'd be like, hey, yeah, well, let's work on it. Like I know a lot of people don't like him. He comes off as way too out there, way too like just cartoonishly driven, I guess, in a way. But I love David Goggins. I randomly, David, who's been on the podcast, not Goggins, but you know, but my friend David, he said something and mentioned him and stuff, and I looked him up because he said that how I am reflects him. So maybe I'm just cartoonishly driven as well. But he mentions there's like a little anecdote about, or not anecdote, but just in mentioning that he just, friends that are comforting, it doesn't really help push you. But this is like, and he even caveats it with, this won't work for everybody. What works for me isn't going to work for you. And I feel the same way. Like, but this is how I am. Like, having friends who just kind of comfort you and are just like, you're not feeling it, whatever. That's okay. We can go grab a beer and pizza or something, watch the game, and like, there's no growth to be had there in that way. And I myself agree. There's, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm saying it anyways. But same with as I am slowly losing my voice / hitting middle-age puberty again. Excuse me. Okay, now that I'm not dying. But having the friend who will be like, no, come on, let's go kick butt. Yeah, you may not be feeling great. Nah, let's. You're there to pick you up, because like sometimes you need that. And I feel like in seeing that, you can understand it for yourself, for like the person who is that sort of way, in whatever elements you wish to see, like as a level above yours. You can try to help and light the lamppost for the people below you. Like, and that's not in to say like they are beneath you. It's just that they're just, I mean, yeah, I guess you could look at it as a path instead, if you feel like that's bothering you. But you're just kind of, we're all running the same race. Some may not get nearly as far as the others, but there's a lot of beauty throughout the whole thing. And to unfortunately be stuck only getting so far, travesty in my eyes may not be so much to some other people. And all those chains, they bind us. It's kind of like the social contract or whatever kind of thing. But more, I guess you could look at it like that. I guess depends on what kind of deals you want to be making with people, right? And thinking of it, the people that you consider better than yourself, you don't, like I said, don't turn it into some sort of transactional idea, or okay, what can I get out of the person? Like, that's a very Machiavellian sort of way. It's less of what can I get out of this person, it's more of, I appreciate this person. Why is it that I appreciate this person? What is Aristotle? Was it Aristotle that said a friend is another self? It's, why wouldn't you want to better yourself? I guess. I don't know. That's I really have gotten very upset over the last few years, especially with how like the dank memes and all that kind of nonsense. I mean, that phrasing has really died out, but that energy is still there. That mindset of, it's all going to end, and very allegedly nihilistic kind of ideas, but nihilism is more than, like, from what I remember, somebody could certainly correct me on that, but nihilism, from what I recall, was, you understand the concept. Oh yeah, you understand. Nietzsche seeing, oh crap, we've got all this stuff going on. We are losing, we're losing our religion. Thank you, REM. And we need something to create as a pillar to hold ourselves up. Because if we have nothing to hold ourselves up, or to, not necessarily just to prop ourselves up, but to kind of push ourselves from where we are, we will recede into ourselves. We will just take the path of least resistance. It's just like, oh, well, this is the easy way out. Let's just go this way. We will just kind of recede within ourselves. And that's where he gets the Ubermensch and just, becoming the Superman, and, okay, I understand I'm going to die, but I will go beyond. I will go even further beyond. But Nietzsche is just a big DBZ fan. Who knew? Oh boy, oh boy. But yeah, it's just the that's not even just woe is me, but that's what I hear a lot of not even woe is me, but just oh, I know I need to get my life together. And it's like, well, what are you doing? What are you doing to do that? And it's an uncomfortable question to ask, but I think it like if I was in that situation and I'm saying that out loud, I would hope to God that somebody, friends, family, coworkers, strangers on the street, if you ever talk to anybody on the street, would have enough love in their heart and enough care to be like, oh, this person's doing this, like they're saying this, then just simply ask the question, then what are you doing to fix it? Like, put, like they, you know, get them to start trying to internalize an idea to go to no, don't say it to figure out a path to get out of that, right? Like, and that's what I think of when I think of the kind of, those three different levels, yours, the upper and the lower, on helping the lower. Sure, you can't just drag them out of it, because if you just drag them out of it, they're not going to learn how to be at that point, so they'll just recede back into it because they haven't developed the habit for it. So you just light the lamp. Even in just lighting the lamppost, it may be enough for them to understand, oh, okay. And maybe that's like just beyond their nature to be like, okay. And they just sort of recede back to it because that's what they become comfortable with. And they become comfortably numb to the struggle. And for all I know, maybe I'm completely off on that. But at least for my life, I don't think that's quite the case. So that's what I got for the topic. Yeah, gonna take a break and then get into a quote. So stick around. Welcome back. That there is Ice Ridge of Nortia. Yeah, a little bit of a waltz kind of kind of bit to it. Absolutely awful. That East 2, like, I don't know what it is. East 2 is like, for some reason, I don't like it. Like, East 1 is fine. I get the bump mechanics not great, and it's nice to have the magic thing, but it feels like it really leans into that magic a lot more, and it's just like, and then just the stages. Solomon's Palace or Temple is just awful, just dreadful. Ice Cave is dreadful, or Ice Ridge. Just great music, but like East 2 really just I don't know. I don't hate it, but I if I was to go between 1 and 2, I'd probably be like, I'll stick to 1. I'll be fine with 1. The quote that I have here, it's a short one, but I think it ties in well. It seems I've mentioned Nietzsche earlier and whatnot, not too long ago. That is, you have your way, I have my way. As for the right way, the correct way, and the only way, it does not exist. And this kind of darkly tinges into the individualistic nature of people. And it's not necessarily that I agree with it in the sense of like living life, but I don't quite agree with it in an amorality sort of sense. There are ways to go about things that don't really be like, oh yes, I'll do this thing. But it's, I mean, I get it. It's not the only way. Um, I don't know. I myself am much more when if you have the chaos and orderly sort of thing. I certainly skew a lot heavier into being more orderly. Um, because I think chaos is more of a primal basic attribute. So if you're more chaotic, yeah, I strike that as being more basic. Um, rightly or wrongly, I think it's a bit more shallow. Yeah, I mean, there's sure you want to sprinkle in a fun, being silly and spontaneous and stuff, but spontaneity and chaos is not the same thing to me. Like, yeah, chaos is like if I was to look at it like a I don't know. I don't know how to phrase it. Yeah, I'll just leave it like that. Like chaos is a lot of maddening sort of energy, and it's a lot easier to destroy something than it is to build something. So like that's a where my head goes is that's the path of least resistance. That's the kind of the general way that people kind of come to a conclusion on something, as opposed to trying to go a different route. And sometimes the different route is not a good one. It takes too much energy, takes too much sacrifice, and the payoff is nothing. But when I think of it though, is that as long as you're truthful in how you act and like what you talk about, um, as long as you do that, I think it stands the test of time. It may not stand the test of time, in the moment. 5 weeks later, 5 years later, 50 years later, it might not. But if there's something there that lasts into the future that people can point back to and be like, oh yeah, no, there might have been some truth to it, and there could be something where they, oh yeah, there's truth to it, and then even sometimes later be like, yeah, I don't know about that. I don't really. Um, it's just the fun way that people and societies ebb and flow. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I figured try to find a quote that actually sort of fits to some of the stuff I was saying. So yeah, I'll mention this first. The song we'll play out to is going to be "Open Your Heart." We'll go with "Open Your Heart." Um, yeah, and just kind of have fun with that. Thank you for listening. And if you have any sort of comments, if you think I'm way off base, or how do you approach your social interactions or stuff? Like I said, it's something I keep like I internalize, but I don't like keep track of. It's not like I go, oh, this person is in this group, this person's in this group. It's more of like, why am I interacting with this person? And not in a mean sense. Like, are they just fun to hang out with? Are they, do I find them cute? like what have you? Like, do they help me be like, in some way, try to be a better person? What have you? That's just how my brain works, and rightly or wrongly, that's just how I go about doing things. I don't know. How do you go about things? Do you even reflect on any of that sort of stuff? Or are you just like, my friends are my friends? Probably better for it than having all sorts of knots in your brain that, like I do. It is. There may not be a lot of it, but it's certainly pliable and malleable, or I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyways, thanks for listening. Have a good week, weekday, weekend, weeknight, everything else in between. And I'll see you next week. Take it easy. Bye.